Amanda. Investigating possible online threats against members of the House of Assembly, a member of the Premier's security detail shot and killed 59-year-old Donald Dunphy after he reportedly pointed a firearm at the RNC officer. The shooting occurred shortly after 2 o'clock Easter Sunday afternoon in the tiny community of Mitchells Brook near Mount Carmel. Less than 400 people live in the community. Many can't believe what happened yesterday, saying that Dunphy wouldn't hurt anyone. Police became concerned after a Good Friday Twitter posting sent to both the Premier and Sandy Collins, the minister responsible for the Workplace Health, Safety and Compensation Commission. Dunphy has had a long-standing feud with the commission after he was injured on the job while working on the mainland. The tweet in question reads, "Won't mention names this time. 2 dead MHAs might have good family members I may hurt."
It's upsetting when you see a comment made like that that's directed, it's directed towards, appeared to me to be directed towards me and another cabinet minister, and also the people who are most important to us, our families. I've got an 83-year-old mother, I've got a wife and a child, I got a family myself, and this impacts them as well.
Davis's staff brought the posting to the attention of the security detail, who traveled to Mitchells Brook to investigate.
At the time, the officer was confronted and shots were fired. Mr. Don Dunphy, was declared deceased at the scene, and our officer did not receive any physical injuries as a result of the incident.
While police will not confirm it, NTV News has been told that Dunphy pulled a gun on the officer. We don't know if Dunphy fired his weapon, but we do know the officer did. Neighbors reported hearing multiple gunshots.
Like I said, we're still in the very early stages of the investigation, and as to what exactly occurred will be fleshed out through that investigation.
While the Premier says he is saddened by Easter Sunday's events, he was not aware of the threats until after the fatal incident.
I wasn't aware of this until after this happened yesterday.
The officer who pulled the trigger is on leave, mandatory for any officer involved in a shooting. The investigation, expected to take some time, is being handled by the RCMP.
And today we're learning a little more about the man shot dead on Sunday who lived in that small community of Mitchells Brook by the social media fingerprint that he left behind. Joining us now live this evening is NTV's Jody Cook. Jody?
Good evening, Larry. A social media fingerprint doesn't necessarily define the characteristics or define the person who left that fingerprint behind. But what we do know is Don Dunphy was very engaged in political things and many other topics.
59-year-old Don Dunphy used Twitter sometimes hundreds of times a day. His interests varied. He had thousands of retweets. Topics ranged from human rights issues to environmental concerns, poverty, and issues around retirement, and very specifically workers' compensation. But it was his politically driven tweets and a specific rant on Twitter Friday that may have started the fateful chain of events.
On behalf of the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary and myself, offering our sincere condolences to the family of Mr. Dunphy. A premature loss of life like this can only be described as a tragedy, and I sincerely hope that in the end the family finds the answers to the questions that I'm sure they have.
Don Dunphy had more than 1,100 followers, including members of the media and politicians on Twitter. His Twitter handle, @Sculpin, showed an incredibly active account with more than 27,000 tweets. On Friday, it appeared a benign tweet from an MHA about driving in the sun set Mr. Dunphy off on a string of rants targeted at government he called blind. But what exactly Don Dunphy meant by it could be open to interpretation. Police won't say if he was known to them. Neither will the Premier. Don Dunphy appeared to have a strong disdain for both government here and federally.
Social media and through news websites and so on, people quite often make very harsh and difficult comments. Leave it completely up to the police to follow up and investigate those types of comments when matters. And one time it was a letter or a phone call would be what would be received. But we're in a very different very different age today and a very different place. So.
The RCMP say the autopsy will be conducted on Mr. Dunphy tomorrow. Larry?
Jody, thank you very much.